12:15. So let's get into the Kareem Hunt thing now then, guys.
All right.
So I think we all assumed if the Browns lost that game last night that they would trade Kareem Hunt today. And I think a lot of people thought, myself included, that if they won, they wouldn't trade him. Josina Anderson this morning. Right now, it's still quiet in Cleveland. Browns went into last night anticipating not being super active at the deadline. My understanding is they'd prefer to keep Kareem Hunt, just not sure if they'd meet his market desires in free agency. Still, not just going to give him away. Guys, if you feel like you're still in the hunt, and the Browns are still in the hunt, they are 2-1 in their division. We all know it's a major uphill climb for them to make the playoffs. But if I'm only going to get, what do we think is the best case scenario? Third round pick? Is it possible?
They're asking for a fourth.
Well, we don't know that that's true. That's been the speculation. What do we think is the best case scenario? Jason, what do you think is the best case scenario?
Probably, fourth probably is the best
So
case
what's
scenario.
the point of trading Kareem Hunt for a fourth round pick?
No, I'm against it.
Yeah.
If it's 3 or higher, I think you have to have a serious conversation. But fourth rounder,
So that's your
I
drawing
think a third.
line.
I think I would probably
Third,
go
you
ahead
would
and
do it.
but not. I mean, you can get a starter with a third round pick. Like you can absolutely get
Emerson's the third
line
round
depth
pick.
and cornerback depth. You can get a player. I think fourth round, it's starting to get a little bit harder. Now you're starting to throw darts a little bit. Although, I mean, we were knocking Andrew Berry earlier. Like Isaiah Thomas, I think was a 7th round pick. This guy can play. Isaiah Thomas
finally showed up yesterday.
Did his value go up yesterday?
Kareem?
Yeah.
See, I don't buy into that.
He's a great player.
You're not shopping a guy 12 hours before the deadline because if he pulls a hamstring, that's it. You're getting nothing for him. So I don't buy. I know there was 2 thoughts. I don't buy the fact that they were trying to showcase.
Doesn't everybody already know Kareem Hunt's a great player?
Everybody knows who he is.
If Kareem Hunt went to the Rams or the Bills or a team where he was going to be the number 1 guy, which he can't be here,
we're all human.
he'd be great.
Maybe you need reminded of it. Maybe you need to see him remind like.
Mike, you trade them? Do you want to?
I got to believe in him. If he says it's a third, he knows more than I do about this. If you say third round pick is worth it, then I would say third round pick is worth it.
G, what do you trade him?
Hell no, I'm not trading for 2 reasons. One reason is you sell into your locker room that we willing to do whatever it takes to win this year. And if you got an opportunity with Kareem Hunt to continue to play with Deshaun Watson, to continue to work and to get any victories that you can, you got to sell that to your team because they going out preaching it. They telling them, hey, guys.
That's a good point.
Total line.
That's a good point.
Total line. We doing everything we can. And if you get rid of Kareem Hunt, they're looking at you like, are we really trying to win? Because you traded him for a 4th round pick. We cut 4th rounders around here.
But here's the thing. They have more than capable backups. If Jerome Ford's ready to come off IR, obviously they like him. He is the Kareem Hunt replacement for next year.
Right.
Dearness Johnson has proven he's more than capable. Kareem Hunt on the Browns is a backup running back. That's it. That's who he is. That's what he is.
And you might as well start getting those guys some reps this year and get them some experience because you know the Kareem Hunt's not going to be here next year.
I'm not trading him. I'm not interested in trading him unless the offer was just too good to refuse. Like
and what's too good to refuse for you?
To me, even like
third is not
a Christian McCaffrey type of offer.
Okay,
because by the way,
that's not coming though. Just be
I
realistic.
know that's not coming, but that's the only way I would do that.
A second round pick?
A second round pick, I trade him.
For a second round pick, you do it. Okay, so
but I don't really want to because. If I'm
would for a second round pick.
I guess I would.
You're putting his value as 2018 Kareem Hunt, and that's not who we have no evidence. We have no evidence that he is 2018, 2019 Kareem Hunt because of injuries and because of the way he's been used.
And my point is,
there is some evidence.
We all have our price.
See, Zach Jackson yelled at me this morning already once for saying the same thing. Look at the way, yes, he's still valuable. Yes, of course he's valuable. Because this is the point I made in the piece I wrote this morning.
Yeah.
If I'm a team trying to trade for Kareem Hunt, like we talked about this in our group chat, the Jets need a running back when Breece Hall went down. They went and got James Robinson for a 6th. Kareem Hunt is a better running back than James Robinson. But if you look at their numbers since the start of last year, James Robinson has outperformed Kareem Hunt. So if you're a team...
Well, what numbers?
Rushing, receiving, and touchdowns.
What you mean total?
Yeah, total production, total yards.
But James Robinson played a lot.
That's my point.
But I can't judge him that way.
Why not?
Because I think Kareem Hunt has the same skill set that Christian McCaffrey is, and I don't buy that he's significantly worse than Christian McCaffrey.
But if I'm the Bills trying to trade for him,
Jason, and that's why nobody's going to give up that package, right? But
I think we agree on that.
I think he can make that same kind of impact. But I agree, nobody will give up that package. But if I'm the Browns, coming off what could be a season-changing win, I'm not trading a guy who's a key player on my offense. even if they used him more and he was a big factor in that game yesterday, and they should use him more. Yes, he's a backup, but there are plenty of teams that use 2 running backs valuably, and the Browns have done it at times.
So you are not trading him unless they offer you a second-round pick.
Man, look.
Right, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, but if they did, you would.
I would begrudgingly do it for a second-round pick.
Okay.
No, not just a second-round pick. I'm talking about the same offer for McCaffrey. They got a second, a third, a fourth, and a
So you
fifth.
have your price.
Again, it's not. Yes, there is a price where I would do it.
Yes.
But I don't think anybody's going to meet that price. But how do you go to the locker room less than 24 hours after this win and say, guys, we just traded Kareem Hunt for a fourth-round pick?
You know how you do it? Because you say, look at his attitude last night. He wants out of here. He doesn't want to be here. We don't want
players
guys.
don't care about that.
But listen, but that's what you tell them. You tell them, we don't want guys who don't want to be here. That's how you sell it to them.
See, that's not a selling point because here's the thing. Last year, when they traded OBJ, everybody in the locker room was like, why'd you do that? Why would you trade him? We like him in the locker room. We think you don't use him enough. And
They cut him, right?
And they cut him.
They cut him, yeah.
And then he went somewhere and balled. If you do that 2 years in a row and you hand Kareem Hunt to a
You're
contender,
not cutting him. You're not cutting, and you have to look at the bigger factor.
But they don't care about that.
And listen, I don't think they're trading him.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I want that on the record.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting
just
moved
playing
today.
devil's advocate. I
No,
hear what Jason
I'm just saying you just traded away a bunch of picks to get Deshaun
So
Watson.
is one fourth-round pick going to make a difference?
If for a guy you're going to lose it, I said third. I think I would need a third for him.
Okay.
But for a guy you're going to lose at the end of the year anyway, and again, on this team,
You guys are one pick apart on this, by the way.
But that's all it takes to make a deal
He
or
said
not deal.
third.
I'm
You
saying
said
second,
But-
third, fourth, fifth, same trade as McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I'll take a second, fourth, fifth. I'll give up the third too.
On this team,
Yeah.
he is a backup running back. That's it.
He's more than a traditional back.
But they don't use him as that.
They do.
Not
but they
really.
did the last 2
But
weeks.
really,
you,
not
but
last
you,
year,
but
this
you
year.
have to take a look at who he is in this locker room. It's Nick Chubb's best friend.
Yeah.
Like what?
I think in the end, he's not going to get traded
I think
today.
OBJ was a lot more higher.
I agree
than
with that.
Kareem
Yeah,
I do agree
in
with
terms
that.
of locker room status.
I do
Yes.
agree with that.
Yes.
I think.
And last night, he was a dude who does not want to be here.
I also
which
don't
I
think.
don't blame him.
I don't
also,
either.
if I were him, I'd want to go
I'd
somewhere
want
else.
out
I
too.
also
wanna
don't
play.
think Nick Chubb is going to get sad and stop being
No.
Nick Chubb if his
Exactly.
friend isn't here
Exactly.
anymore.
By
Can
the
I
way,
ask you guys a question on this real quick?
Yeah.
We just went around the horn before, and
Yeah.
Bull, you asked everybody, do you think the Browns will make the playoffs? And
Yeah.
all 4 of you guys said no.
right.
I know it's tough optically because they just won 12 hours ago and it saved the season. But if they had lost, I think we're all saying you sell them for whatever you can get.
Right, because then the season's over, so what's the difference?
But my
coming off
question
this
is-
win, that's hard to sell on the locker
Agreed.
room.
And I'm
Yeah.
not disagreeing that. My question though is, and Jason kind of touched on it, you did just give up 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson.
I don't care.
And you do need some draft capital moving
I
forward.
think
so
that argument's a bad one.
No, it's
because
not. Not in the NFL.
Getting 1 draft pick. You're not making up the 3 first-round
you're
picks.
losing-
you don't need
you're
to make
losing
it up.
him no matter
you
what,
have
though.
Deshaun Watson.
What if that draft pick helps you move up a spot or something too? That's all
Who
still
cares?
draft
You can
capital.
always I could always make a trade in the offseason to get a draft pick.
But you got to get draft picks
Not
from
a third.
somewhere. You got to get draft picks
you
from
can
somewhere.
get third-round picks.
For giving up something of value.
Hey,
and
listen.
again, I
They're
would
not
hold
getting
on
the
to
third
him.
anyway, so it doesn't
And
matter.
here's why I would hold on to him
Yeah.
is because of the optionality that it gives you. Because
Jason,
what if
yeah.
what if Nick Chubb has a catastrophic
Exactly.
injury next
Exactly.
week?
Right.
It changes the entire conversation that you're having around.
It could
Kareem
even
Hunt.
change the conversation you have in the offseason.
So,
Isn't there-
so this is why,
Yeah.
I don't want to trade him. I don't think he will be traded.
Right.
But if a team offers me a third for him, I'm trading him.
You know why I wouldn't do it? Because any team that's doing that is finishing in the bottom, so it's like the 100th pick in the draft. I don't care about the
They
100th
got
pick in the
Martin
draft.
Emerson in the
So
third round.
hold on. But you got to start putting names to these third rounds. You say, okay, well, who's in the third round? So you traded Kareem Hunt for Jordan Elliott. You traded Kareem Hunt for Anthony Schwartz. These are threes.
Kareem
you
Hunt
gave
for
one good
Martin
one.
Emerson.
Right,
Like,
but we can give you a ton of guys that
Of
screwed up in
course,
the
it's
third
a
round.
crapshoot. But
You're
I'm
right.
saying, if you know what you're doing and if you can draft well, and their record is spotty, but I firmly believe the longer a GM is in a position, the better they get at drafting. We just haven't experienced that yet because these guys get
Agreed,
fired after
but
a year
teams
or
get
two.
it wrong all the time.
Of course
and,
they do.
And there's other ways to get
But
players,
this-
and the Browns don't need a ton of players, in my opinion.
If you're going to lose him at the end of the year anyway, if
Yeah.
you can get a 3 for him, you move him for a 3. I don't think it's going to happen.
I
but
will
would
agree
do
to
it.
disagree.
And I think his part.
but I agree with you that it's not going to happen.
I think Mikey's point
Yeah.
was we all agree that they're not making the playoffs. So we're hanging on to this guy, even though
Who
we
you're gonna
know
lose
that
at
we're
the end
not.
of the year
who we
anyway.
know we're going to lose at the year
But
anyways.
aren't they? By the way, aren't they going to get a compensation pick for it?
That's a
the year
good
after?
point.
Compensatory
I
pick,
wanted to ask
but
about
it will
that.
probably be you get it the following
year, but
and it's based on contract what he gets. He's not going to get a ton, so it's probably going to be a fifth, sixth,
round
seventh
pick.
round compensatory
Okay.
pick.
All right.
You got to look best case, worst case. Best case is you do a third round pick, you get somebody that's a contributor, you move all the way up, Dearness Johnson and Ford. But guess what? The worst case scenario in which you could lose a whole locker room is Kareem Hunt Nick Chubb gets injured. He's gone. You just traded Kareem Hunt to a contender, and now you have Dearness Johnson as your running back, and people are looking at you like
And
you're
Anthony
a fool.
Schwartz backing him up.
Even though if we all had to bet, we bet they don't make the playoffs. I think we all agree that the door is open a little bit,
Sure, yeah.
right? And so I'm not giving up that hope by trading one of my most talented players,
I don't
even
think
if
you
he's
are.
not as
I don't think you are.
I think you are. I think you are. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Even if he's not used as much by the Browns as maybe he should be, and certainly would be by other teams because he'd be the number one guy.
I got one more argument for keeping him on the team.
Yeah.
It's not about draft picks. It's not about him helping us go to the playoffs or anything like that. I'm a Browns fan, and I like watching him play. He's fun to watch play. And I want to watch players play that I think are fun to watch play, and that guy's always a hoot. It's entertaining. I came to be entertained, and I like watching that man play. And if I have however many more games of watching him play, then I'll pay for that. So that's one more reason, one more argument for the man.
If you're a Chicago Bears fan right now, right? They came off that, I know they lost last week, but the week before they came off that big win of the Patriots. They're playing they're not very good, but they're 3-5. They're hanging in there, and they've just traded a bunch of guys. Like, if you're a fan and the team's been bad a while, and it feels like you're giving up on the season. And trading Kareem Hunt is not a white flag on the season because they still have, one player who is a backup is not ending the season. But it feels that way, and it feels that way to the fan base, which you can't make trades for the fan base. But sometimes it's not just about looking at the analytics, and I'm a big analytics guy. I'm always fighting for analytics.
Yep.
But the smart GMs find that balance of human and analytics.
Does he?
And in this case, I think trading Kareem Hunt coming off that win, even though I'm sure he'd like to be on a team where he'd be the starter, because if he went to Buffalo, my God, he'd be fantastic.
I know,
the Rams,
scary.
he'd be fantastic. And he could be here if Nick Chubb wasn't here, but he is. So
it comes down to this, does he give you a better chance of you making the playoffs with him on the roster?
I think so.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah. Mikey McNuggets.
So I was not advocating for trading Hunt, for the record. I was just pulling it out there.
Yep.
Other question. There's a couple other guys who may be on the trading block for the Browns as we wait for Aditi. Do you think Greedy Williams survives the 4 or 5
I don't
p.m.
care.
deadline?
I don't even think he's worth
Do
discussing.
you think they make any moves?
Why would anybody give up anything for Greedy Williams?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's going to hit free agency.
I mean, why would
He
anybody
had
give?
food
He
poisoning
can't play
last night.
What
He
does
was
he
on
do?
the bench most of the night. He had food poisoning.
Wait, some bad clams or
He
something
said he
before
had
the game?
bad seafood on Wednesday.
Huh.
Like, I've never heard of food poisoning
Kicking in.
Bad
that
6
much
hours.
later.
Did they make any moves? Add somebody?
I mean,
let
he's,
him
So
have-
I guess
he's
Joe-
always playing.
I guess. Obviously, I didn't hear the broadcast. Did Joe Buck mention something about Jack Conklin being on the trade?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
Joe
That's
Buck mentioned that.
Curious. Like, that's curious. Because I hadn't heard that. But
Hey, you know what?
Somebody told him that for him to take it to the
I'd
air.
rather them trade Conklin than Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, because you can slide James Hudson from what
Right.
we've seen.
James Hudson's looked great whenever he's been out there.
He has.
Yeah.
Conklin was a little banged up. He came
He's
out.
always hurt, Conklin.
And he's not back next year
we were
either.
not saying that
Right.
about Hudson last year either. If
At
you'll
the end of the
recall.
season, the Steelers game at the
Yep.
end of the year,
Yeah,
he
he
got really wrapped.
Brutal.
So, yeah.
Wait, what's that? Was Hudson the one that they accused of not being able to block T.J. Watt? They kept leaving him one-on-one.
They kept leaving
Yep.
him in single
That
coverage.
was Hudson?
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
Look
that
how
shows
much better he's played
that
this
shows
year.
the coaching, I think. and-
Callahan's a goat.
Yep. And somehow I also want to credit Joe Thomas for that for some reason, just for the hell
go
of it.
ahead.
By the
Doesn't-
way,
yeah.
is
Thank you, Joe
Jedrick
Thomas.
Wills getting his 5th-year option picked up?
Ooh,
Yeah, I think
that's-
he is.
Think so?
Yeah, because
Who they say who you'll put there?
you have much more pressing needs on the defensive side. You have
Yeah.
limited assets now. You're not going to find a left tackle in free agency who's any better than him.
Yeah.
Like,
He's been their worst offensive lineman.
okay, but is he really killing you?
No.
I had this conversation this morning with Ken and Lima on their show, And I just flippantly threw out to Zach as we were leaving the
Do you
press
throw
box.
in when you're on this show, when you're on with those clowns?
Oh, yeah.
Or good?
I like the show I'm not allowed to talk about. That's what I said.
So absurd.
Can I ask you a personal question real quick?
Ridiculous, yeah.
What is it like being a host in Cleveland on a Browns-related show?
Yeah.
And having your team be owned by the Cleveland Browns so thoroughly.
Like, yeah, that's crazy.
I'm glad you asked that
I
question.
want to know, really.
It's a weird reaction. I don't like when the Bengals play the Browns.
We were talking about this yesterday after the show.
I
you
really
and
don't
were.
like it because it just, I don't know. I hated when the Cubs played the Guardians and the Indians in the World Series. I hated that. I wish
we hated it too at the end there.
I really was. I really wish the Cubs had played somebody else and then the Indians had won it the next year.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot here.
It's not even that because I'm not like a phony. I'm not going to pretend.
Right.
Like when the Bengals.
I know that.
When the Bengals lose to the Browns, like I was like pissed off watching the Bengals because they played like garbage.
Right.
But I don't get as sad for whatever reason when, like, I don't really get as sad as I did when I was younger. When the Bengals
I'm the same
lose.
way.
I'm excited when they play well and win, but I don't get that bummed when they lose.
Yeah.
But except for the Steelers, I hate when they lose to the Steelers. But I was also, the only thing I care more about than my teams is being right. Ultimately, nothing matters more to me than being right.
Right.
And I want to be right about Kevin Stefanski when so many others have jumped off the Stefanski bandwagon.
Right.
So even though there's the half, like the fandom in me wanted the Bengals to win, but the other half of me wanted the Browns to win.
It's almost a win-win, lose-lose.
It kind of is when they play each other. For me.
Yeah.
It's a weird. I don't like it.
I can imagine it being a weird mix.
I kind of it would remind me of being in 2 fantasy leagues or 3 fantasy leagues
When you got guys
where
playing
you
against
got
each other.
where you got Jalen Hurts on one squad and then so you're playing against Jalen Hurts. You're like, but I want him to play well.
I know.
But I can't want him
Yeah,
to play
I know.
well that much. It screws the whole.
Well, I had Lamar Jackson in my keeper league 4 years in a row. So it was like always. But speaking of which, with fantasy, to make fun of myself a little bit, but like selfishly, I do want Kareem Hunt to get traded because I have him in 2 leagues, and he's going to be a lot more valuable if he goes somewhere else. But
Right.
for the Browns, I don't want him to be traded. So I'm going to, that's what I want. I don't want him to be traded.
Yeah. You don't
Anyway.
believe, though, that do you think you assume that Jason's thing is right about it just being a mathematical anomaly, the fact that
It's weird.
the Bengals haven't done well against the Browns?
But they only haven't done well in the last couple of years.
Right.
For a lot of years before that,
Since the Bengals got good. Like, that's what's so weird.
But the Bengals have only been good for 2 years.
And that's when they've just
But
whipped
it's
them.
only 2 games. The second game last year, the Bengals played all their bench players.
The game where OBJ blew out his knee. They won that one.
They won that one.
It still has to be.
you talking
Well,
about?
when Baker
2 years
25,
Yeah, but the Bengals weren't any good that year.
The
Bengals were awful in
The
2020.
COVID year, were they terrible in COVID?
Yeah, they ended up with the 5th pick in the draft. That's how they got
okay.
Jamar Chase.
All right, yeah,
I
yeah,
wonder
yeah.
So,
if
but
that's,
in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
the Bengals and Browns, I just spit on you, G, sorry.
Oh, it's good.
In the last 2 years, the Bengals and Browns have played 2 legit games.
Yeah.
And in those 2 legit games, the Browns have destroyed them.
Yeah.
So I don't think
But
it's
these
enough
are
of a
still-
sample. Like,
Right.
this whole one team owning the other.
I don't believe it
I
either.
just don't believe
I
in
don't believe it
general.
either.
Like, I think
Right.
that's silly.
I don't
Mikey
believe it either.
McNuggets was spreading
It is
conspiracy
odd
theories
because-
that the Bengals are, like, already beat when they come to the stadium. I don't buy that. But
it is odd that
It
it
is
was
odd
last
that they
year.
have kicked
Last
their
year,
ass.
they're the team that
longer
went to
it
the Super
continues,
Bowl last
the more
year.
it gets in their head.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
a self-fulfilling prophecy to a degree.
Yes.
He still has a monkey on his back because he hasn't beaten the Browns. And at first, I think it is just math, and I think it's just like they just happen to play bad.
Right.
Time's up. But then these guys are impressionable. I think there's a lot of psychology to this because we've seen it with this Browns team.
I can't explain it.
but-
But the Browns have played their 2 best games by far the last 2 years are against the Bengals.
I just think when you look at the Bengals, like they're like a man with no country, so to speak. Like they have the capabilities of playing like the Bills, right? We just gonna throw the ball. We don't care what you say.
Right.
But they also have a guy who they went to the Super Bowl, and Joe Mixon. He had the best year of his life or something.
Yeah.
So you look at it, you're like, okay, you come into this year, and you're like, okay, so what do we want to do? I heard him talking about it before the game. He said, we're still going to run a lot of 3 receiver sets because that's just what we do,
Yeah.
even if we don't got Jamar Chase. So if you're gonna be married to the past, hell, just get back there and do it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first of all, it's only 1 game, so I don't want to get carried away. But from a Bengals perspective, Joe Burrow's got to prove he can be great without Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
He wasn't, as a rookie, Joe Burrow was fine before he got hurt, but it's not a lot of games.
You the first person to say that.
I mean, he was
have never heard
fine,
that.
but he wasn't great, and he obviously did not play well. And it's not all his fault because their line did not play well, but still, he didn't play well. He missed some throws, and obviously, when you go from Jamar Chase to Michael Thomas.
It's a bit of a drop-off.
I mean, that's as big a drop-off as you can possibly have. But it's not an excuse for losing. Joe Burrow's got to play better.
Yeah.
The offensive line hasn't played well enough.
Damn.
And they can't run block.
They put that stat back up. They really dominated two dudes.
It was crazy.
Listen, the numbers indicated every step. It
Look
was
at
an
this.
absolute ass kicking yesterday.
193.
Ass kicking of the highest order.
That's a little
What
over
was the time? What was the
200
time of
yards.
possession too?
It felt like from the middle
Time
of
of
the
possession, by the way, was 37 minutes to 23. Mike.
Yeah.
By the way, from the
It's
middle
insane.
of the second quarter till the middle of the third quarter, it felt like an hour that the Bengals didn't have the ball.
Yeah.
It seemed like the Browns had the ball for like an hour.
That is where.
Yeah.
So you talk about when you get to like what's the Holy Grail? The Holy Grail for the Browns, and I first saw this when they played the Dallas Cowboys a couple years ago when Odell ran that reverse and everybody had 100 yards it seems. When the Browns get to that point where they stop time on you, that's the highest level because like you said, teams are like, dude, they done had the ball the whole
You
damn
just see
quarter.
Nick Chubb run for 4 yards and stay in bounds, and the clock just keeps moving, and you're like, oh yeah, move that clock, go on.
Yeah.
Because if they get up 12, it's hard because, and I will say that's when Kevin Stefanski sequences things, right? When he's sequencing like, okay, let's run the play action here, and then he gets 6 yards. Now if it's second and 4, you can't stop that. They take the whole damn game away, and that's the highest level of what their offense is.
No doubt. Last two things I would like to rip the Bengals for since you brought it up.
Please, I'm glad.
Number one, Zach Taylor, I've said this consistently, even when he went to the Super Bowl, is not a good coach.
Joe Banner agrees with you. You and Joe Banner agree.
You said that.
He is not a good coach. I've said this consistently. Kevin Stefanski's a better coach than Zach Taylor. I would bet anything on that. If they had the same roster, Kevin Stefanski would have more success. I can't name a single player on the Bengals offense that has that he could say, Joe Burrow's a great talent. Jamar Chase is a great talent. T. Higgins is a great talent. Tyler Boyd's a good talent. Joe Mixon's a good talent. I can't say he's elevated to play on anybody of offense. The Bengals DC is excellent. They didn't play a good game yesterday, but their DC, Lou Anarumo, they got a bunch of just guys on their defense.
Yeah.
And outside of yesterday, they played great, and they played great last year. And the adjustment they made to Kansas City in the AFC Championship is one of the all-time defensive coordinator adjustments. Patrick Mahomes looked lost in the second half. But their coach stinks. And Tyler Boyd, who I love and is one of my favorite Bengals, he embarrassed himself, and he embarrassed the entire fan base yesterday. I don't want to see this nonsense celebrating when you score a touchdown. It's 25-0.
Yeah.
You score a touchdown, he's doing the sniff the fingers thing. By the way, I hate that. I don't know what it is, but that sniff the fingers thing, every time a player does that, I want to punch the freaking guy in the face.
It's not it's not
and
good.
Joe Mixon.
No one tell Bull what that is.
By the way, I'm pissed at Steve Becker. I'm pissed at Adam Ostro right now because I can't curse and I want to curse. I'm pissed at all of them, all right? Joe Mixon, grow the bleep up, all right? Don't try to start a fight on every play. Nick Chubb gets cheap shots on him every single play. And he never does any of that nonsense. Never. Nick Chubb is a stud, and you are just a guy, Joe Mixon.
Look at the camera. Bull, look at the camera.
I don't look at the camera. I'm sorry that I don't look at the camera. I've been doing radio for 20 freaking years, and now I'm doing TV. By the way, subscribe to our YouTube page. Become a member. For $1.99, you get an emoji of me screaming.
And right now, by the way, if anybody does have those stickers, are those stickers out now?
Oh, they're being blasted in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Nonstop.
Smack all those stickers. If you want some stickers, it's $1.99. Get you some stickers. Don't have
maybe
people
Snickers too.
and a Snickers. Don't have people
will have a
smacking.
Snickers.
As a matter of fact.